Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Sridivya, and I'm going to take your water and wastewater treatment class. So, we all know what is water, what is wastewater, what is its treatment, what are we going through, how water is the major element on earth, and how are we going to use it, how are we going to pollute it, like everything, each and every aspect we know. But let's get into depth. All right, let's go to the introduction of water. So this slide not only tells us about the water, its uses, but also shows the importance of it. So let's go into it. It is not Water is not just a resource. It is more than a resource. It is the essence of life. The biosphere, the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, the lithosphere, wherever. So everywhere, water is the major component of life. So it is the natural resource essential for all forms of life. It makes up a larger percentage of our bodies as well and plays a vital role in every biological process. So, every living thing undergoes this biological process where water plays a major role. And coming to the distribution of water, the water distribution, as we all know, 97% of water is present in the oceans. And oceans, it is ultimately the saline water, which is not for you consumption purposes, which is not for the household domestic purposes, it is not used for any other purposes. So what can be done for the saline water? Can we just leave it just like that and without using it? No, we have the process called desalination process where the salt and filtration can be done in a thorough manner where salt water can be used as a fresh water and it can be used for the recreational purposes or for the domestic purposes and all we can be using. Further, we will be learning more about it in the further slides. So if 97% of whole water on globe is in the oceans, rest only 3% of the fresh waters is present. Among this 3%, major amount of it is again going into the glaciers. It is major amount of fresh water is trapped in the glaciers, underground, rivers and lakes. So these water plays a major role in the climate regulation as well, and in the biodiversity, human survival. It is basically the cycle of it, the water cycle, what we say. So wherever it is, like how much ever the water it is, whether it is getting polluted, whether it is getting contaminated and all, it is ultimately leading to the climate change, and it regulates the temperature, it also regulates the biodiversity, and also for the human survival. So, for which purposes do we use it? We use it for the domestic purposes, the drinking, sanitation purposes, for the agriculture purposes, for the irrigation, livestock, and all these. And third one is the industrial purposes for the manufacture, for the cooling effect. For all these are the uses of the water, major uses particularly. So, if we look into the importance of water, particularly, so it is for the basic human life. We need water for the hydration, we need water for the sanitation, we need good water for the good health, and for ecosystems. What are these ecosystems? It also supports the aquatic and the terrestrial biodiversity. The water supports the ecosystem in terms of aquatic life, and also for the terrestrial biodiversity. In terms of economy, the importance of water is a must. So in terms of economy, it raises the economy by providing good amount of water for the agriculture purposes, for the energy production purposes, and also for the industries. For the proper functioning of all these sectors, the water is majorly used, and also it regulates the climate. That is, it controls the temperature, it drives the warm patterns, climatic patterns. That is, um, it regulates the, like, more amount of water is present near to the coastal areas, it is very humid and also kind of cold. But in the Deccan Plateau where we are presently staying, it is very hot and dry temperature, where once there is a huge amount of rains, the temperature gradually gets down. So the more amount of water, the more amount of cooling temperature, more amount of trees, more amount of cool environment is present. And this exactly drives the weather patterns as well. If we look into the picture here, so major amount of water is being converted, it is transported to the dams where the regulation of water is being done. This is the major water source where the amount of water is distributed through the dams, and these are the other sources, that is the river water, the underground water, the rainwater. Everywhere it is getting stored, and then it is getting treated, and it is going for the people, for the consumer needs, and also for the different sectors, as we already discussed about the industrial water, industrial sector, agricultural sector, and also for the domestic purposes also the water will be distributed. So there are different sources of water, where ultimately for the consumer needs and also for the different sectors how water has been used. So coming to the different sources of water, so the sources of water, where exactly do we get the water from the surface water, which includes the rivers, streams, lakes, reservoirs, and the wetlands. Again comes under the groundwater, where the aquifer, wells, and springs are present. Coming to the atmospheric water, in the form of precipitation. Water source is in the form of precipitation, that is in the form of rain, in the form of snow, in the form of fog, in the form of dew, you name it. And this is the atmospheric water, where again the earth is receiving water from the atmosphere, and it is getting recharged in the form of groundwater, recharge of aquifers, recharge of wells and springs, and recharge of surface water, and all these. So coming to the ocean water, it is getting, this is another source of water, where in order to use this ocean water, desalination process has to be done, where the conversion of seawater to fresh water is being done. So if we look into the picture, they are the natural resources from where the water we will be getting, what are the benefits of this, and what are the drivers, what is like driving force which is making the water uh, uh, abundancy less. All right, so if we look into the picture, what are these natural sources? Let's see into this. The natural land cover, wetlands, groundwater, stream buffers, stream rivers, all these are the different sources of water from which we get the fresh water from, and how it is distributed, and how are we receiving the water in a good quality, we will be seeing in the further slides. So if these are the natural resources of water, what could be the benefits of it? So we have the ones, there is a good amount of water, good quality water, there is a good production of food, fuel, and materials. All right, so next one is the recreational purposes, that is for the aesthetic purposes also, the water can be used for the peace, and for the drinking purposes. So the drinking purposes, water quality has to be monitored, and once the good quality of water, good amount of good drinking water can be obtained, and due to which the health also will not be getting deteriorated. So the public health, so the public health also is major into concern, we have to be considered, as there are a lot of benefits by the water, by giving good sanitation, by giving good health, in good regulation of water, sorry, uh, good blood flow into it, with more amount of water, good hydration and sanitation and public health will be assessed. And this biodiversity conservation, so with the good water source, good quality water, there will be good biodiversity as well. And these are the other drivers for change, where the water is getting deteriorated in the form of hydrological alteration, So if there is a no proper flow of water, there will be more stagnant of water, due to which more amount of it is getting contaminated or polluted, due to which again there are more insects getting out from it, and due to the invasive species, unnecessary plants and all are getting involved into this, and the pollution as well. So majorly the industries discharge the water without the proper treatment. Once it get discharged into the nearby water bodies, the water is getting polluted. Not just industries, but also the irrigation sector, livelihood, and also this livestock, and also the agriculture practices also mainly contributes to the pollution. And also the land management, without any proper management, the water circulation, distribution, and also it gets affected by not having a proper land management. And so these are the major drivers for change which gets contaminated, and the water sources. So coming to the major sources of water, we all have must have heard about the water cycles. So let us learn more into depth of it. So this water cycle particularly, let us see from the atmosphere. So from the atmosphere it comes to back to the earth in the form of precipitation, where the water comes down in the form of snow, hail, rain, fog, dew, so whatever it is. So it comes down to the earth in the form of precipitation. So once the precipitation occurs, that is, the water reaches the earth's surface, so it gets infiltrated into the soil. The soil and the plants take up the water, get recharged. So the groundwater recharge will be done, and the groundwater, once the ground level water is been full, it is again getting discharged into the water storage. So water storage mainly in the nearby oceans, lakes, streams, whatever. So these are the ones. So the precipitation, water is getting condensed and coming down to the earth in the form of rain, and water is getting steeped and getting infiltrated into the soil, and moisture, maintaining the good soil moisture, and with the good quality of the water and good soil moisture, there will be healthy plants growing, and due to which there is more amount of greenery. And the water, once it is getting infiltrated into the ground, it is getting discharged into the nearby water bodies. And from the main water bodies, lakes, rivers, oceans, seas, the water is getting evaporated mainly from the mainly it is due to the heat from the sun. Due to the heat, the water becomes the vapor or steam which goes into the air. So once it goes into the air, what happens? The condensation happens. That is, the water vapor from the water, once it goes into the air, it just cools down and changes back in the form of liquids and then form into the clouds. So the water vapor from the ground is going into the atmosphere, getting trapped by the molecules and forming into liquid, and that is forming clouds. This process is called the condensation, and through condensation, again due in the form of precipitation, that is, the water that is trapped in the form of clouds again comes back to the earth in the form of precipitation. This whole cycle is we call it as water cycles. So there is another one. So major amount of water, that is the source of water, is majorly trapped in the glaciers, that is the snow mountains, and water storage in the form of ice or snow. These days we are seeing more amount of glaciers melting, due to which there is more alarming rate of sea level rises, due to which again there is a climate change. So every aspect of the atmosphere is driving into major concerns for the survival rate in the major survival rate. So this glacier, once it gets melted due to heat or the water from the rain or melted snow, it moves across the land running into the lake. So this, as due to warmer temperatures and everything, the glaciers gets melted and subsequently flows down into the water bodies. So these flowing down into the water bodies, we call it as streams, and we call it as channels, and these could be even lakes. and everything. So let's look into this. So once the groundwater gets the water gets infiltrated into the ground, the water will get recharged. The ground level, the water level under the ground will be increased. So the water will also be trapped due to the infiltration. That is, the first layer of the earth will be the soil, and this water, the water is also will get trapped under the rock materials. The pores filled with water is called an aquifer. So now aquifers are present into the water. So in the construction sites we start drilling. All right, so once there is a drilling, we will get the water pumped outside. So that is sometimes coming from the aquifer. So if it is directly from the aquifer, very less amount of water will be pumped out. If it is a big aquifer or directly groundwater level, then we get more amount of water. So this is the aquifer. I'm sure you must have understood what is an aquifer by now. So this is another one, and how the ecosystem provide the water bodies. So the clean water, whichever is available, is critical to the health of the people. So these ecosystems also provide water resources. So the clean water, whichever is available, is critical to the people health, the environment, and also the economy. The ecosystems such as rivers, lakes, streams provide roughly about 80% of usable fresh water, while the remaining water comes mostly from the underground wells. So this underground wells are nothing but the groundwater, where it is getting recharged with the help of vegetated land covers and also this natural wetland systems. So this vegetated land cover so helps to regulate the flow of water through a watershed by intercepting, absorbing, and slowly releasing the water. So, what is a watershed? Watershed is a man-made thing where the water is being collected at a particular place with the where whenever there is a rainwater precipitation and everything, the water gets collected at a particular area, which slowly the water is getting absorbed and recharges the groundwater table and slowly releasing the water. And this is a sponge effect, what we call, and it also reduces the adverse impacts such as stream bank erosion, sediment transport, and frequency and severity of floods and drought. This sponge effect mainly because of the water which is getting trapped or which is getting getting stored in the form of in watersheds and also in the vegetated land cover. Due to this sponge effect, the adverse impacts like erosion, stream erosion, sediment transport, once the water is trapped, the sediments will not be getting transported further. Slowly, by the natural filtration process of the earth, that is soil, rock, charcoal, everything, like slowly it gets infiltrated, and then getting the groundwater recharge will be done. So the sediment transport will be stopped, and the frequency and the severity of floods also will be reduced. So these natural resources such as the wetlands, stream buffers, vegetated land cover can also naturally filter out the pollutants such as the metals, pesticides, sediments, and overabundant nutrients that may even affect the water quality. Overabundant nutrients is nothing but the eutrophication of water, where major amount of nutrients from the irrigation sector, agriculture sector, and all these pollutants will be finely filtered out by through this natural process by using this wetlands. Wetlands again can be of natural and also the as artificial. So artificial are the ones which are human made, and the natural wetlands are the ones which are naturally available everywhere, and it is just nothing but the storage of water. So in order this wetland plants, there are called the wetland plants, where particularly these plants take up the nutrients from the water. Excess nutrients will be taken out by the by the plants for its growth, and then directly providing fresh water. This is the natural process of treatment in the wetlands. Um, so, coming to the journey of water. So, once the water is available through the different sources, let's have a comprehensive look at the conveyance systems. The conveyance systems is nothing but the distribution of water, from where it is coming, from the source of water to the from the consumer needs, how it is getting distributed. So, the water conveyance is nothing but the process of channeling water from its source. They are which are essential for transporting water efficiently to meet the agriculture, industrial, and the domestic needs. These systems can be categorized into natural and also the artificial conveyance systems. So, the water conveyance is nothing but the process of diverting that or distributing the water from its source, and how it is essential for transporting water efficiently in order to meet a particular need, which is for the agriculture sector, irrigation sector, industrial sector, domestic needs, etc. These systems can be classified into natural as well as artificial. Artificial are the ones which are human made. Naturals are the one which are directly made, directly formed. For example, in this picture, what we see from the glaciers, if the stream, if this is called a natural, this is the natural water conveyance system, where slowly the water is seeped downwards, downhill, all right, to reach the major water body. So the water from the glacier is seeped into the natural water body in the form of channels, canals, lakes, rivers. All these are the ones which are forming in the as a water conveyance systems. So these natural water conveyance systems, if we get into it thoroughly, these systems involve the natural movement of water through the ecosystems without any human intervention. So it is a natural seepage system. So first one is the rivers and streams. So the naturally occurring channels where the water flows due to gravity. The water from the glacier reaching the water body is mainly due to the gravity. As we see, there is a natural seepage which is occurring due to gravity. Act as a major sources of fresh water supply for irrigation. It is a major source for the fresh water supply for irrigation and drinking purposes, and also for the industries, agriculture, and everything. Can be affected by the seasonal variations, climate change, and also the pollution. So this natural seepage, that is now, or natural distribution of water, natural channeling of water, can be impacted or can be influenced by the seasonal variations. And with more water, with more warmer temperature, more amount of water is getting distributed, and with more amount of climate seasonal changes, drastic rainfall or floods, destroying the natural ecosystem and all. So, and also the pollution is also getting affected by this. So coming to the second one, by the natural resources, which is the lakes and reservoirs. The lakes, these lakes and reservoirs will store large amounts of water and slowly distributed naturally through outflows. So these are the natural water bodies which store huge amount of water and slowly distributed naturally through outflows. often used as the sources for water distribution in nearby cities and farmlands. Alright, and the reservoirs can also be used as a control system to regulate the water flow. As such, these reservoirs are mainly used, reservoirs, dams, these are used for controlled regulation of water flows to the urban areas, farm areas, agricultural sectors, and wherever the water need is necessary. So these are the lakes and water reservoirs and groundwater movement. If we see, so in the groundwater movement, the once there is a precipitation, water percolates deep into the earth through the soil layers. So once there is soil and then rocks, rock bed, which accumulates the water in the underground reservoirs, which are nothing but the aquifers. So this is the aquifer where the water, once it is getting percolated deeper into the underground water, underground soil, the water with along with soil and bedrocks, the water is getting trapped in between, so that is an aquifer. So this is the bedrock and this is the aquifer where major amount of water will be stored and further filtrated underground to get for the groundwater recharge. So these are the aquifers and natural springs also emerge when groundwater finds a way to the surface. So once the water comes out of the ground and there is a stagnant of water, that is we can call it as natural springs. And important, these groundwater is majorly important for the drinking water supply in many regions as we pump. If you see in Africa, if you see in India, so majority of the people pump the water through the pumping systems and then directly used for the drinking purposes. And coming to the artificial water conveyance system, this artificial water conveyance system is the humanitized, that is human engineered systems which are particularly designed only to transport the water efficiently for the long distances. As we see, the natural clear demarcation between the pictures will give you a clear picture and understanding of the difference between the natural and artificial channels. So this is the natural conveyance system where naturally, due to the gravitational force, the water is getting down to the one nearby places, whereas the artificial channels, these are human engineered ones where the water in a particular way they are engineered or regulated to distribute to the different sectors. So the other ones among the artificial conveyance of water, canals and aqueducts are one of the water conveyance transport systems. So canals, these are also the humanitized one. There is a human engineering ones where the canal, the water is being conveyed, that water is being transported from one place to the another in the form of canal, where this canal also is lined by concrete such that there is no absorption of it and it will be properly regulated. If we see into these aqueducts, so these aqueducts also they allow the water to regulate it. They regulate the water to flow in one particular direction. So these canals and aqueducts are majorly used to transport the water in a particular direction, okay, from the reservoirs. Mainly these open channels, that is the canals and the aqueducts are mainly used to transport water from the reservoirs, lakes, rivers to the agriculture fields and urban areas. Ultimately, these canals and aqueducts will be leading for the agricultural or urbanization purposes and all. And how these can be done in the form of pipes as well. So one is the canal, aqueducts, they regulate the water. The other one, how do they distribute to the proper pipelines? So they, as we see in the with the modern urbanization practices, major amount of pipelines have been constructed underneath the ground surface. So these pipelines are majorly used for the transport of water for long distances, especially in the urban areas, and this cannot be disturbed and it will not be damaged by at any cost. So typically made up of steel, concrete, plastic, PVC, etc. These kinds of pipelines are majorly we will be seeing underneath the earth for the regulating water for long distances. And pressurized systems. See, these pressurized systems are the one. So uh, in a particular directions, with the using pumps and all, there is a particular flow of water in a particular direction without evaporation losses, without leaking and all. These pressurized systems also will be used. All right, these pipelines will allow, so the pressurized system using pumps. Sometimes during pumps for the low level, very little water from the tanks or whatever. But if it is majorly from the long distances, like maybe from the rivers, lakes, etc., if these systems have to be flowed in a proper way and all, pipelines have to be used. So these pipelines with a particular amount of internal size and everything, there will be a pressure created and ensuring the efficient flow and reducing the evaporation losses. So coming to the ditches and drains. So these ditches and drains are the commonly seen in the agricultural sectors in order to distribute the irrigation water to the field. So the small ditches will be created by the farmers in order to deviate the water from the major water body, for their particular land areas, to irrigate their agricultural soils. And the surface ditches are also be present and manually dug or mechanically installed as well. So these are the surface ditches where mechanically can be done. These are the natural ditches. And these drainage systems help to remove the excess water to prevent waterlogging. So coming back, the ditches and drains. These are naturally formed by digging, and these farmers majorly use these ditches for transporting the water into their agricultural fields from the nearby water bodies. And the surface ditches are also manually dug or mechanically installed in order to divert the water. And the drainage systems as well will remove the excess water to prevent the water logging effects. So there are another conveyance systems, that is the tunnels and siphons, where the water needs to be conveyed through mountains or hilly terrain. So for this, there will be huge tunnels where only whenever there are mountains or hilly terrain, these mainly tunnels have been used for the regulation of the water body. Siphons utilize the pressures. So there are small siphons here where the pressure is being created to transport the water over the obstacles without the mechanical pumps. So there will be proper flow of water. So coming to the pumping stations, these are the pumping stations. So whenever there is water underground present, or particularly for the construction buildings of over 40 or 30 high rise, particularly high rise buildings, they need water. So by majorly pumping stations will be installed, or maybe for the huge water usage sectors like industries, particularly if they need more amount of water, they will be pumping stations where major amount of water will be transported or lifted up. The pumps lift the water from the underground sources, rivers or lakes, to the treatment plants or the reservoirs. This can be done not only by the gravity, but also some pressure has to be created in order to transport the water, which is very common in the urban water supply and wastewater treatment plants. So coming to the conveyance of water, where the water can be distributed. So we all know the natural systems, how these naturally formed ones, lakes and all, and how these engineered systems can be transported the water. So these engineered and the natural ones are distributing the water, but there is a way that we get the water to our domestic purposes or agricultural field. The purpose, this is mainly called the water distribution system, where the main purpose is to deliver the water to the consumer with appropriate quality, quantity, and pressure. Directly, we can get the water from the rivers, but it has to be of good quality and it has to be of good quantity and as well. And with a huge pressure, only we are able to use the taps and we are unable to access the water from homes. So, this is mainly due to the water distribution properly taking care. And this purpose, as we understood, the water distribution, the purpose is to deliver the water to the consumer with appropriate quality, quantity, and by pressure, and also to collectively supply the water from its source to the point of usage. Yes, there are rivers, there are lakes, there are canals, there are siphons, but are we able to utilize it directly from it? No. We are using some other distribution system. So, water is getting collected, water is getting treated, and water is getting distributed through some distribution systems. So, let us see what it is. So the requirement, there is a first main important is the requirement of good distribution systems. So we need a good distribution system. So if there is a perforation in pipes, or if there is any leakage, damage, so there is no point of distributing, because half of water is getting lost by the this losses. So the water quality. So water quality should not be deteriorated in the distribution pipes. So the quality of the pipes should be very important aspect in order to maintain the water quality. And the other one is it should be capable of supplying water at all the intended places with sufficient pressure. So though there is a storage tank or there is a storage place where the water has to be distributed to the the consumer needs. So for this it should be capable of supplying water at all the places, so whenever it is required. So that is the proper distribution. And it has to be also the capable of supplying the requisite amount of water during the fire and firefighting. Okay, for firefighting there should be a huge amount of water for diminish or reduce the fire. And if there is no proper distribution system, the firefighters they use a thick quality pipes where with pressure the water is getting flushed out of the pipes to diminish the fire. So there should be a proper supplying. So supplying and proper requisite amount also should be present, and the pressure should be present and the quality of the pipe should be necessary for the proper supplying of water. And the layout also should be in such a way that no consumer should be without water supply. So without water supply, that means that it is a deserted area where there is no water. Without water, the human survival or the biosphere survival is impossible. So in order to have a good layout, there should be proper water supply. And also during the repair of any section of the system, all the distribution pipes should be preferably laid 1 meter away or the above the sewer line. So the layout should be like there should be no place without water supply where without any human access. All right. And during the repair there should be on preferably another one which should be able to serve the purpose, and it should be fairly watertight as to keep losses due to leakage of to the minimum. So this water has to be properly distributed and the pipes have to be in a proper maintenance in order to minimize the leakage of the water. So layouts distribution network. So what is this? So layouts, what are these layouts? So the distribution pipes are generally laid below the road pavements. As we see, the several construction people or the mining people, they place many pipes underneath the ground, particularly in the road areas, in order to distribute the water reaching all the ways possible. And and as such, their layouts generally follow the layouts of the roads. Of course, this is the main thing what we generally follow. If there is a good distribution of pipes, it has to follow the roads. So the more the number of roads is getting deviated and distributed, the water pipelines also have to be connected in such a way to that at every corner of the road, where every household corner need to be accessing of water. And there are four different types of pipe networks. All right, so one of which either single or in combinations will be used for the good distribution of this thing. So classification of distribution networks. So there are different types of distribution networks, like dead end ring system and all. So if we look into the depth of each system, we will be understanding how the water is being supplied to several consumers. So first one is the dead end system, which is also called the stream system. This system mainly suitable for the old town and cities having no proper pattern of roads. All right, this is the mainly in this, many sub pipelines are connected to a single main pipe that runs along the center of the building. So one pipeline will be there where sub pipelines are many, and the water runs along the center of the building. The other sub pipelines are further divided from both sides into branches that connect various service areas of the building. So if we look into this picture, there is a main pipeline where the sublines, like the branches, are present, and everywhere there is a deadline. Everywhere there is a deadline where the water cannot be circulated. So what is will happen to the branches? It gets deviated into the branches to the left and right. Here, what I'm seeing, and then after that, again the water is going to into the submains. Or later, so this is how there are several deadlines. So, what are the advantages? This is a cost effective system, need not have a single pipeline for everything. We can install the pipeline wherever necessary within no time, and it is and pipe laying is also very easy, and less skill is necessary for this. And the determination of discharge and pressure quantity can also be done easily. So we can monitor the pressure quantity, the discharge through. This is mainly due to the small number of valves. And what are the main disadvantages? There are many dead ends. Stagnation occurs. Okay, since there are many dead ends, there is huge amount of water getting stagnated, which is not a good sign. And the pipes should have a larger diameter. They should have a larger diameter, longer length, due to the high circulation flow from all the directions. And the available water pressure. So the available water pressure is always low. So the pumping system is required to meet the supply pressure requirement. So as there are more amount of dead ends, the water seepage or water distribution is very low, since there is no pressure at all. So the supply pressure requirement is very less. So this is another disadvantage, and it is of high risk, and due to not only one main water supply pipeline to the entire building. All right. So this is the advantage and disadvantages of dead end system, and this system and this type of water distribution pattern is mainly useful for the old towns and old cities where there is no defined pattern of roads. There is no proper road lines and everything. So coming to the radial system, this radial system is mainly it divided into several zones. All right, so the water is pumped into the distribution reservoir or the storage tank which is kept in the middle of each zone. So if we look into this picture, so the black dots indicates the distribution reservoirs where the water is being distributed. All right, these are the several branches where from the center one is the storage tank or the distribution reservoir where the water is getting stored, and it is distributed with the help of several branches and also with the streams. All right, and there is also like main sub mains where it is getting from one system to the other system. So if you look into the advantages, mainly suitable for high rise buildings. All right, so radial system is mainly suitable for the high rise buildings, and this also supplies water with high discharge and with minimal head loss. Okay, whereas pressure is created, and there is high amount of water discharge and offers quick service. So even though one system fails, the other one is ready to supply the water. So the main disadvantage of this system is that it is not at all economical. As the distribution reservoirs are more, so more amount of money or economically it is not at all feasible. So due to more connection, this system requires more length of pipe laying system. So more connections are there, so more pipe requirement is there, but we can actually calculate the pipe of size as well. Hmm. So coming to the third one, that is the grid iron system. So this grid iron system is the main pipeline, and sub-main pipeline, branch pipelines are interconnected to each other in the form of grid system. If you look into the picture, see properly, like there are several sub-main systems and branches, and the main branch where it can help the water to be distributed without any hassles. So as we can see, the main pipeline, the sub-main pipeline, the branch pipelines are interconnected to each other in the form of a grid system. And so the name called grid iron system. Okay, a grid iron water distribution system is also known as interlaced system or the reticulation system, where the interconnection, wherever the possibility, the water can be distributed. The requirement of the total length of the pipeline is more due to the more connections and helps to maintain water pressure evenly. So this is cost very expensive as well, because expensive because more uh, pipelines are installed for the even distribution and maintaining the water pressure and all. Grid iron's water distribution system is best suited for the modern, well planned cities, as the water pipeline and the branches are laid in a rectangle layout. So once it is installed with a good planning of urban system, or in a well developed cities and all, this rectangular grid system is mainly used for good circulation of water along with the pressure. So the advantages could be, there are no deadlines, so there is no stagnation of water. So the water is continuously flowing through the pipelines. So there is no abruption in the water distribution. And the maintenance and repair work. The maintenance and repair work can be carried out without disrupting water flow. So if there is any problem at this side, it can be easily maintained, and without any disruption of water flow. This water distribution system provides the required discharge quality quantity for the firefighting. This system is best suited for the firefighting, because wherever the possible, the bear with high amount of pressure, the water can be used by the firefighters for firefighting, and there is a minimum head loss because of the interconnection of the pipes. So there is no lossage. It is very expensive, though it is expensive, it is used for several purposes without any hassles. And the major disadvantages is that cutoff valves are very high, many pipes are required, expensive pipe length because of its pipe length, because of pipe length and larger diameter. So coming to the ring system. So this ring system, the whole system here, as we can see, it is in a ring form, in a circular mode, all right, in a ring pattern. So it is enclosed by the main pipe. So enclosed, as we see at the four corners, it is enclosed by the main pipeline, and in a radial or a rectangular shape, in a circular mode also, it can be trapped. In case of any failure of one system, a very small area will be affected. So since the main pipeline is present at the four corners, even though if it is a small leakage or disruption here, the major thing is not a failure, but it will not be affected. So there will be no failure, and very small area will be affected, and once it is rectified, immediately replacement or damage can be recovered. The area ahead of the affected area, mm, can get water from the other system points. Even if this area is getting affected, other systems will be there where pressure the water can be distributed. In this system, water can be supplied to any point from two directions. So any two directions, and to any point the water can be circulated. So the water can be circulated in a ring system, and there are several advantages for this system. That is, the discharge rate is high when compared to other distribution methods. The maintenance and repair work can be carried out without any disrupting water flow, and due to smaller number of interconnections, the head loss is minimum. And due to no endpoint, stagnation of water is minimal or zero. So these are several advantages due to ring system, and this also can be planned in the well constructed cities such that there will a proper distribution of flow with a minimal repair works and without affecting the flow or disrupting the water flow. As there are several advantages, there are also disadvantages such as expensive, and because of the requirement of the pipeline, the laying is more. So since there are many sublines, more pipelines are required, due to which larger diameter and also more pipe cost. The requirement of cut-off valves is more, and also this system requires skilled laborers for laying pipelines. So this is the major disadvantages of the ring system. So by now we have understood what is the importance of water, how it is like how it is getting affected, and what are the sources of water, how the groundwater is getting recharged, how the water table is getting increased, and what is the water cycle, how the water is getting recharged, and how is the water is transported from the source to the consumer needs, how it is getting conveyed in the form of natural and artificial, and how the water is distributed and everything. But now let us learn how the water quality should be maintained, and how what are the factors which are influencing the water quality. So what is exactly a water quality? Water quality is defined as the physico chemical biological characteristics of water, which are usually in respect to its suitability for a designated use. So if it is for the recreational purposes, certain type of water parameters or water quality has to be maintained. If it is for the drinking purposes, or it is for the fisheries agriculture, so it based on the water quality is maintenance has to be done based on the purpose of its usage. So water can be used for the recreational activities like boating, or for water fun activities and all, for the drinking purposes particularly, and also for the fisheries and agriculture sector, and also for the industries. Each one of these designated uses have different defined chemical, physical, and biological standards necessary to support that use. So be it for the drinking purposes, certain analysis has to be done. So pH has to be at certain level, oxygen level has to be a certain level, organic matter has to be of certain level, minerals has to be of certain level. So every purpose has its different standards, though it is a biological, chemical, or physical. So designated uses have different standards for its usage. Global water quality challenges. So the water quality has different challenges, let us say. So, what are the global water challenges? If we look into the each, there are several challenges are nothing but deteriorating the quality of the water. So, what are the global water challenges? First one is the emerging contaminants. What are these emerging contaminants? These are widely circulated, affecting the making the water severe quality and all. This emerging contaminants are mainly of different types, which includes the pharmaceuticals, personal care products, endocrine disruptors, and per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. All right. So, if you look into these pictures, there are different types of emerging contaminants like uh, PAH, dioxins, and PCB, and dyes containing hazardous pollutants, organic and inorganic chemicals, etc., and pharmaceutical residues with nutraceutical and cosmetoceutical, and new chemical and biological micropollutants from agricultural wastewater, and personal care products such as antibiotics and creams and all, and plastics, different disinfectants. These are all the types of emerging contaminants which are deteriorating the quality of water. They often escape traditional water treatment process and can have long-term subtle yet significant impacts on ecosystem and human health. So these emerging contaminants are cannot get treated by the regular treatment processes like chlorination, disinfectant by using the disinfectants. These are the traditional practices what we go through, like other than that, membrane filtration you say, or sand filtration, whatever the regular treatment practices will not be able to remove these particulates. These emerging contaminants cannot be removed until and unless the secondary and the tertiary treatments have been performed. So these have the major impacts on the ecosystem and also the human health. The challenge lies in their widespread presence. Yes, and the complexity of their interactions and the difficulty of monitoring and regulating them. So the major challenge is the spreading. So they evenly spread of, like it is these are emerging, so they continuously spread in any water kind of substance. All right, so they diversely spread, and the complexity, they don't easily dissolve, they cannot be easily removed, they cannot be easily monitored, they cannot be regulated and all. So these emerging contaminants have a major impact on the water quality. The second major impact is the of the microplastics. These microplastics, huge research is going on these microplastics. These microplastics are everywhere, in the air, in the water, in the human body, human system, and everywhere these microplastics are present. So how are these microplastics, and from where are we are getting these microplastics? So these are basically the tiny plastic particles, are the pervasive in aquatic environment, mainly from the rivers, lakes, and to oceans, ultimately leading. So these microplastics are easily carried. All right. So mainly that could be due to the plastic litter, and and industrial activities, and fishing activities, seabirds, like, ultimately these microplastic are getting spreaded everywhere possible. So it actually poses a severe threat to the aquatic life through the ingestion and potentially transfer of harmful chemicals up to the food chain. So what is this food chain, what is it up to? So this food chain is nothing but these microplastics when taken up by the aquatic life. that is the fisheries or the marine organisms, they are consumed by the birds, migratory birds or marine birds. So once they feed, or the fishing, through the fishing practices, the human also consume these fisheries by fishes which have already accumulated these microplastics. Those when consumed by the humans, that microplastics or eventually get down into the human body as well. And once the body gets excreted, through the fecal contaminants, that again get dissolved into the soil or in the water, which is ultimately getting back to the water and polluting the water system. So if you look into the first picture here, it is clearly showing that this microplastics, plastic littering by the humans and also by the industrial practices, human activities are also getting intervened, and aquatic life is getting deteriorated, and it is ingested by the fishes, ultimately causing the problem for the humans. And these microplastics are also due to the plastic water bottle, plastic covers, and UV mechanical and microbial things are also present in this. So coming to the posing severe threat through this aquatic life, the volume of the plastic waste is also getting increasing, and it is also getting difficulty of removing these microplastics from water, making this as a major challenge. So these microplastics can also be removed in a several process, in a biological process, macroplastics and microplastics, biological process, and also through several other industrial process also. So if we look into the second image, so wherever there is a possibility, everywhere these microplastics are entering. So whether it is the societal use, it is starting from the societal use of plastics, that is the domestical, industrial, and also the agriculture sector, where plastic usage is more, and due to which the disposal and the release into the environment, these microplastic will get degraded into this plastics will be degraded and form the microplastics. All right, these microplastics are distributed everywhere in the environment, water, air, wind, etc. And now the plastics are everywhere. So this water, again, through the wind dispersal, again it comes back to the earth, going back into the soil, and soil erosion is performed, and accumulation getting this microplastic are getting accumulated into the soil, and the trees which take up these particles from the soil for its growth, and trees are also taking up those microplastics and providing us with wood contaminated with these microplastics, and the water is also getting affected, and all this. So everything is interconnected, everything is getting into the food chain, and the food chain ultimately leading to the improper human well-being and contaminating the atmosphere. So if we look into the nutrient pollution, so what are these nutrient pollutions? Are the nutrients really a pollutants? Yes, it is, because these nutrients, when provided or when present in a appropriate in a way, it is consumption purpose used. If it is not in a regulatory norms, or if it is exceeding the beyond the levels of consumption, it is considered as nutrients pollution. Excess of nutrients are nothing but the nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, all these minerals comes under nutrients. These nutrients are mainly present in the soil, and once the farmers or in the agricultural activities or irrigation sectors, in order to enrich the soil, more amount of nutrients has been given. So nutrients in the form of fertilizers, nutrients in the form of pesticides and insecticides, these chemicals getting back into the soil, ultimately affecting the soil and also the plants. So more amount of soil when so more amount of nutrients when get drained into the water bodies, it forms the harmful algal blooms. So these the excessive nutrients, primarily the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, form from the agricultural runoff, and wastewater led to the eutrophication. Eutrophication is another severe problem where the water quality is deteriorated and affecting the normal aquatic life and also for the consumption purposes. Mm. So this results in a harmful algal blooms, water depletion, and forming the dead zones in water bodies. Dead zones are nothing but where, due to the algal blooms are nothing but where the water with algae growth, there is a dense algae growth on top of the surface water, due to which there is no transportation of sunlight into the water body, through which the was aquatic life can be survived, and ultimately the oxygen is getting depleted and forming the dead zone. So dead zone, if we look into this picture, we can see there is excess amount of nutrients in the water and rapidly growing, encouraging the algae to grow, and which is ultimately blocking out the sun to reach the lower levels of the water. And bacteria which feed on algae, this is like an interconnection. More amount of algae, the bacteria will feed on algae, and more amount of bacteria and algae, more amount of water present in the water, more amount of oxygen present in the water is taken up by the bacteria. So the oxygen is lacked for the aquatic animals, such that the aquatic animals die, and decomposing plants and deplete the oxygen as well. And plants cannot perform the photosynthesis due to the blockage of sun, and ultimately leading to the fall of oxygen. All right. So this is the major effect of water pollution. This problem mainly impacts the ecosystems, fisheries, and drinking water supplies. So the nutrient pollution need to be monitored carefully. And the other emerging aspect is the heavy metal pollutions. Where are we getting these heavy metals from? Mainly, particularly from the industries. Apart from the industries, where else we get it from? So mainly from the volcano eruptions, so magma, all these. So mainly the metals coming from the earth. See, the volcanoes coming directly from the core region of the earth, where main minerals are pumping out of earth in the form of volcano and magma it forms, and also in the form of tiny particles in the air suspension. And once this volcano erupts, the water system is polluted with the heavy metals. These metals, when distributed outside, uh, through volcanoes or through natural or the anthropogenic activities due to industrialization and everything, it reaches the water system. Once it gets reached the water system, the water quality has been deteriorated. Once it is getting deteriorated, the aquatic organisms, again it is getting problem. So heavy metals taken up by the aquatic organisms. Heavy metals are nothing but selenium, cadmium, lead, all these are considered as heavy metals. So once the fisheries take up these heavy metals, they are bioaccumulating it. So it is going on into the food chain again. So again, nematodes, all these like fisheries, the micro aquatic organisms like salmonella, or um, these water marine small more microorganisms which are present in the food chain, they consume it. And the fishes also, once it consumes, and once we have the fishes, we are also getting contaminated with the heavy metal. So industries discharging and mining activities can release heavy metals like lead, mercury, and arsenic into the water. These metals can accumulate in the organisms and pose severe health risks. So climate change. So the water quality is also getting deteriorated due to the climate change impacts. So this picture clearly tells us how the water quality is getting deteriorated because of the climate change impacts. So if you see into the climate change, it is altering the precipitation patterns. So the more amount of warmer temperature, less amount of rainfall, or sometimes even more amount of rainfall than the previous year, increasing the frequency and intensity of droughts and floods, and destroying the human livelihoods, destroying the ecosystem and all. This affects the water availability and also the quality, as well as the transport and fate of pollutants. So this climate, once there is an alteration of precipitation patterns, frequency, intensity of droughts and floods, more amount of water available is getting affected, and also the transport and fate of pollutants also have been affected. The impacts of climate change on water availability and water quality will affect many sectors, including energy production sector, infrastructure, human health, agriculture, and other ecosystems. So these are the impacts of climate change on water availability and water quality. The impact on water quality is due to many sectors such as energy production, infrastructure, human health, agriculture, and other ecosystems. The warming temperature. The warming temperatures, mainly the changes in precipitation, runoff, and sea level rise, is mainly due to the effect. So, sea level rise, as we are discussing, mainly due to the melting of glaciers at an alarming rate. The water level in the sea has been rising, which is ultimately due to the climate change. And access to safe drinking water. Even with technological advancements, huge portions of world's population still do not have access to safe drinking water. And yes, this is true. This is an ongoing and very serious global challenge. I hope you all agree to this. So, why are these challenges are more significant? Though it is nutrient pollution, heavy metal, emerging pollutants, climate change, why are all these challenges more significant, affecting the water quality? So, they threaten the ecosystem health, biodiversity, and the services that aquatic ecosystems provide. They pose severe risk to the human health, including the waterborne diseases and chronic illness, sometimes even leading to death as well. They have economic impacts on industries like fisheries, tourism, and agriculture. They highlight the need of sustainable water management practices and innovative solutions. Addressing these global water quality challenges requires a multidisciplinary approach involving scientists, policymakers, industry, and the public. So these challenges are necessary in order to overcome these challenges. So so these challenges are significant, threatening the ecosystem and biodiversity, posing the severe health risk to the human well-being, and economic impacts as well on the industries like fisheries, tourism, and agriculture. And also, they highlight the need for the sustainable water management practices and rushing to the innovative solution. And by addressing these global water challenges, a multidisciplinary approach is necessary. What is the interconnectedness of this water quality, ecosystem health, and human well-being? So we must be wondering what is the interconnection between the water quality and human health well-being. So there are several interconnectors. That is the ecosystem health. So ecosystem health, that is the biodiversity, which supports the diverse aquatic life, and polluted water, which can lead to species decline and ecological balance. Water quality influences the nutrient cycles, food webs, and overall stability of the ecosystem. Ecological balance, ecosystem services, and human well-being. So human well-being is mainly influenced by the drinking water, food security, public health, and economic development, and social equity, and cultural and recreational value. These all also affect the human well-being. What is the cycle of impact? The cycle of impact is that once you are able to protect the quality of water, we will be in a good position. That is the cycle of impact. That is human activities, be it industrial discharges, be it agricultural runoff, be it sewage disposal, which degrades the water quality. The water quality which is getting degraded harms the ecosystem ultimately. Once the ecosystem is harmed, there will be a reducing ability to provide the ecosystem services. So there will be reducing ability of the ecosystem services, and the reduced ecosystem services negatively impact the human well-being again. So once there is a creating a cycle of environmental degradation and human suffering. So this cycle also works in a positive direction. If we improve the water quality, then the ecosystem health improves, thus improving the overall human well-being. So this is the overall interconnectiveness between the water quality and human well-being and the atmosphere. So let us see some key examples of interconnectedness. Eutrophication. Excess nutrients in the water, which leads to the algal blooms, deplete the oxygen and kill fish. This impacts both ecosystem health and livelihoods. Microplastics ingested by the fish can enter the human food chain, poisoning the potential health risk. They also disturb the aquatic systems. These pathogen contaminate the drinking water, affecting the human health, and industrial pollution, particularly these heavy metals and toxic chemicals, released into the ecosystem, disturbing the human health. So these are the key examples of interconnectedness. So once the water is being maintained in a proper quality, so we can avoid the eutrophication. Once we avoid the plastics, we can avoid this microplastics. We can maintain good aquatic ecosystems and pathogens also. If there is a good water quality maintained, less amount of pathogens will be occurred and without any health effects. And industrial pollution, if with the proper treatment and mitigation measures, water cannot be depleted with the help of industries. So that's all for today. And further in the next classes, we will be learning about the water quality parameters. What are they, and how are they assessed, and what are the sources of water pollution, and how the water scarcity has been there, and how water is water quality, water scarcity, water treatment. Everything we will be learning in the next classes. So by now we have understood about the water, its importance, its sources, and how it is getting distributed through natural and artificial ways, and how it is getting deteriorated, the quality of it, how it is getting like major sources of pollutants and all this we have learned in this class. Further in the next class, please make sure that you all be prepared by this such that it will be easy for the next treatment classes. Thank you. We will meet in the next class. Thank you.